Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm PPE and this is the Peso Pro episodes. If you're looking for content on personal finance, money management tips, or peso tricks, you've come to the right place. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button below. Today, we're going to discuss about one of my favorite investment strategies, especially for passive investors looking to find a better way of managing money for the midterm. We're going to talk about the Pag-IBIG modified Pag-IBIG Fund Savings 2 or MP2 for short. This is probably one of the best kept secrets of any government agency offering financial options for Filipinos. The MP2 fund is probably the lesser known vehicle for Pag-IBIG, which is more or less known for its housing loans or home loans, where you can get loans for competitive rates, even sometimes cheaper than banks, and with longer terms for payment up to 30 years. You also see a Pag-IBIG deduction in your payslip for employed individuals because it's mandatory by law for you to actually put in 100 pesos per month and your employer matches that 100 pesos, so you get free money into a savings account that you can withdraw many years later. The MP2 though is a voluntary savings fund for Pag-IBIG, and I'm gonna discuss to you about the pros and cons that I think will help you decide if Pag-IBIG MP2 is good for you. So without further ado, in this video, we're gonna talk about the pros or the benefits of the program that you can use to maximize your short or midterm investment, and also some of the cons that I can think of for you to consider that when you're deciding to put money into the MP2 account. So for pros, let's start with number one, historically high dividends. In the past 3 years, dividends of the Pag-IBIG MP2 have been somewhere around the range of 7 to 8%, which is also very high comparing to other investments that you can do with such level of risk and volatility. The Pag-IBIG MP2 has returned 7 to 8%, which trumps most of any other time deposit accounts or even certificates of deposit or even some money market instruments that typically will give you in a range of about savings accounts will give you like 0.1 or 0.2% per annum to sort of money market instruments that will probably give you within the range of 1 to 3%. So in this time frame and in this risk category, I think the MP2 actually gives very good and decent returns, especially if you're a passive investor who doesn't want to actively manage funds or decide on investment items more often than you just putting in contributions on a regular basis or even one time. The second pro or benefit that you can get from the Pag-IBIG MP2 is that the funds or the principal amount that you put into the fund is government-backed and the dividends are tax-free. You would probably notice that with banks, deposits are insured up to 500,000 pesos per depositor per bank by the PDIC. In Pag-IBIG MP2, there is no limit into the amount that you put into the fund, and that full amount, that full principal amount is backed by the government in case of whatever happens to the fund, which means essentially you're 100% guaranteed up until the principal amount that you paid versus the 500,000 limit that banks have. Also, dividends are tax-free, which means that since you earn the full amount, you're gonna have a bigger compounding power on the dividends that you earn on the Pag-IBIG MP2 versus any other interest-bearing deposits that you will have in a bank. Say for example, you have a time deposit account that will give you, say, a 2% return every year. That 2% interest will actually be subjected to a withholding tax of 20%. So you end up banking only 1.6% per year versus the full 2% that was quoted to you by the bank. On the Pag-IBIG MP2, if the dividends were issued at 7%, you get the full 7% without any withholding tax to worry about. Somewhat related, the third pro that I can think of also is if you compare the Pag-IBIG MP2 to any mutual funds or actively managed funds or index funds in the market, the Pag-IBIG MP2 doesn't have any fees like sales load that you need to worry about. The Pag-IBIG MP2 is fully transparent, meaning all dividends that are declared, you earn 100% without any fees to worry about. Unlike mutual funds, there's almost always a management fee or a sales load fee that will get deducted from the total performance of the overall fund. The fourth pro that I can think of is that it's very easy to open and the barrier for entry is very, very low. Right now, Pag-IBIG has done a good job in making an online platform on how you can apply for the fund fully digitally without having to go to a Pag-IBIG branch. Also, the amount to open this account is only 500 pesos, making it very accessible to a lot of Filipinos. Lastly, this can also offer you a good diversification option for the total investment portfolio that you manage. Since MP2, 70% is directly linked to housing loan interest income, it means that the underlying investments that you're putting it on are not fully stocks. They're actually earnings from actual housing loans that are offered to Pag-IBIG members. So if you have other investments that are linked to stocks or bonds, this is a good diversification because you are now putting a portion of your money into a totally different asset class, earning different dividends and different incomes. Now, in terms of cons, there's not a lot I can think of, but there are a few that you have to consider when you're deciding if you want MP2 as an investment vehicle for you as you plan your goals. The first one, and probably most glaring one, is the 5-year lock-in period for any deposits that you made into the fund. This means that any deposits that you place into the fund has to stay there for 5 years before you can withdraw it. There are certain terms and conditions that will allow you to pre-withdraw, specifically for medical expenses or other warranted scenarios provided for in the terms and conditions, but that may also lead to a loss in some of the dividends that you may have earned. Ideally, in most cases, the funds need to stay for 5 years in that account before you can withdraw them in full. The second con I can think of is that there's no rollover mechanism for the fund. This means that at the end of the 5 years, the fund actually needs to be withdrawn out of that account so that you can maximize the earning potential on it. While Pag-IBIG provides a 2-year window where that fund, after the 5 years, is going to go back to the regular Pag-IBIG fund, which typically earns lower than the MP2. This 2 years will be your final window to withdraw that and still earn interest. However, after the 2 years, if you don't withdraw the fund, they will keep the money, but there's no interest or dividends that will be earned off it. To reinvest, you have to reopen a totally new MP2 account and redeposit the amount into that new account to reap the benefits of Pag-IBIG MP2 for another 5 years. This may be a challenge for some people, but I hope the new online facility sort of enables faster transaction for you to be able to transfer from the old account to the new account. And who knows, maybe in the next couple of years, Pag-IBIG will continue to upgrade its facilities, allowing for an automatic rollover. The third con that I can think of, not really a con, but maybe some inconvenience, is if you want to deposit a significant amount, you would have to manage this via a personal check or a manager's check. The threshold for these are 500,000 pesos, so meaning any deposit of 500,000 or more, you would need to transact via a branch through a personal check or a manager's check. I don't think this is a con. It may just be a minor inconvenience for you, but personally, if I'm also transacting this amount, I would rather choose to have it done at a branch because of the significant amount that's being deposited. The fourth and last con that I can think of is opportunity cost. And while Pag-IBIG has performed really well in the past 3 years of the 7 to 8% on average, it has seen worse days where the average dividends were in the 4 to 5% range, and being that past performance is not a guarantee of future results, we don't know if the streak will continue of that rate of dividends. So if you are earning less, there may be other investment options for you that will yield more income for you. So for example, a typical index fund may sometimes on a good 5-year horizon give you back around 8 to 10% depending on the markets. However, you also take in higher risk because those mutual funds are all based on individual performance of the stocks that they are invested in. So just bear in mind that the dividends from the Pag-IBIG MP2 are not guaranteed by the government, only the principal amount is. So whatever the performance of the fund is, all of the members share. So those are the pros and cons that I can think of when you think about Pag-IBIG MP2. I feel that this investment vehicle is perfect for those who want a passive income stream, meaning you can actually invest a good amount of money here and take the dividends on an annual basis and use that for living expenses. It's also a good option for people who want to use the power of compounding interest because MP2 allows you to reinvest the dividends you earn every year within the 5-year term so that you keep adding on interest on top of the dividends that you've earned in the prior year. I feel though that if you're assessing your risk-reward matrix on where you should put your money, you have to assess that the best results for Pag-IBIG MP2 has always been in the 7 to 8% range. So if you are trying to find higher returns and if you want to take in more risk, then there may be other investment vehicles for you. But for the majority of Filipinos who don't know where to put their savings or some of these investment accounts that they have lying around somewhere else, I believe that the 7 to 8% range tax-free government-backed facility that the MP2 has is actually a perfect way to start investing and try to learn more as you go along with the program. Right now, the way to open an MP2 account has never been simpler, so I think it's a great way to start, especially as you head on to figuring out your next move as you start investing for the future. This is also a great way to start using this vehicle as part of your step number 5 in the steps to independence, where you will stash away 15 to 20% of your income into a fund that earns you decent amount of returns. For me personally, I recommended this to my aunts who are nearing retirement. They can utilize the MP2 as sort of a diversified and stable way where they can put their seed money that they've earned from working years so that they can earn dividends into their retirement years and live off the dividends that they will get from the MP2 fund. That can be one use case. You can do this for the midterm or even the longer term depending on your risk appetite. So just take into account that there are some benefits, a few cons. I wouldn't really say they're major cons. There can be some inconveniences that you just have to factor in when you make the decision. So that's it for this video. I hope I was able to shed some light on what the MP2 is, what are some of the benefits that you can get from the product and why I like it, and what are the watch outs that you have to take into account so that when you decide of putting your money in there, you're fully aware as to what you're getting yourself into. I hope this has been of value to you. If it was, I really appreciate if you can hit on the like button so that the YouTube algorithm will still suggest more similar videos to you as you try to learn more about your personal finance and in managing your money better. And also, please help click on the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so that you're notified for any new videos that will come in the coming weeks.